Chicago City Hall. For more than a century, this is where the Windy City's laws have been made. And yet, right across the street, in 1934, the conmen of Chicago held their own convention here.
This is the Thompson Center today, but back then it was the Sherman House Hotel. And it hosted a trade show for the city's best swindlers. And Chicago's had some great ones. Stock swindler, lovable Leo Koretz. Mr. Bluebeard, Sigmund Engel. But the keynote speaker and King Khan was Chicago's Joseph Yellow Kid Weil.
In the course of his career, he swindled fortunes from some of the wealthiest folks in the country. Anywhere else, that would have made him a villain. But here in Chicago, it made him a legend.
My name is Zach Crockett. I'm an author, a researcher, and a journalist. And I'm obsessed with con artists, the outliers of society. I've gone undercover and exposed scams in my work, and no one is immune to being swindled. But to really understand the game of the grifter, you've got to follow the story and the scam wherever it goes. Chicago. If you're gonna get taken for a ride, this is a great place to do it. Some of the most memorable buildings here along the Chicago River are from the 20s and 30s. It's also when some of the city's biggest con men operated. If you've got enough to build a tower, you've got enough to get taken. I'm here researching one of the biggest takes of the city's most legendary con men. Joseph Yellow Kid Weil. Over his long con career, he scammed a reported $114 million by today's standards. In 1924, he conned a fortune out of 20 different suckers using the same horse racing scam. But who got taken? To understand the mindset of the marks, you have to talk to this guy.
You would think that a con artist wants to stay in the shadows, not Yellow Kid Weil, a con artist who would actually have a formal studio photograph and then hand it out to the newspapers.
That's Tim Samuelson, official Chicago landmark. Really, look it up.
In some ways, corruption seems to be a little bit baked into the fabric of Chicago.
When we do have corruption, we can sometimes maybe do it better than anybody else. But Chicago is famous for really elaborate schemes.
Sounds like a great place to be a con artist.
Perfect place to be a con artist.
Who are some of the types of folks that Weil would have conned?
Rich people.
There was no shortage of those in Chicago.
No, because it was these vast fortunes that were made. It was kind of interesting because the people who were the millionaires were actually just 10, 20, 30 years before scrounging and hustling and trying to make their fortune. And in some ways, there's maybe been a bit of naivete. So it's not like your old millionaires that evolved through generations. This is new money.
There's some money for the taking there.
They were new money, they were naive, and they wanted to get rich quick. They had the trifecta. Makes sense that the scam was about horse racing. I'm at Chicagoland's Hawthorne Racecourse, owned by the Carey family since 1903. It used to be right next door to Sportsman's Park, a dog track owned by Al Capone. As one of the top racing destinations in the Midwest, everyone from Mickey Rooney to President Truman has lost some money here. But the Yellow Kid, he had a sure thing. Suckers.
If you want to fix a race, there are a few ways you can do things. You can slow down the other guy's horses, you could juice up your own, you could pay off a judge, or you could do it the easy way, like the Yellow Kid did.
Then the right horse always comes in, even if it isn't exactly illegal.
It was always illegal. It was never legal.
Racing expert Steve Reese knows all about it.
In the United States, at the turn of the century, there are really two cities with pool rooms. There's New York, which had like 400, and Chicago, about 200.
Okay, here's a quick schematic on pool rooms. When we talk about pool rooms, we're not talking about shooting 8-ball. A turn-of-the-century pool room was the illegal off-track betting of its day. Plush chairs, stiff drinks, and the latest race results on the wire, courtesy of Western Union.
The gamblers had no trouble finding them. Somehow the police never seemed to know where they were.
So I'm wondering if you can dissect Yellow Kid's big con a little bit.
It starts out looking for someone who he can con. These guys are big shots in their towns, so the first thing to do was to find such a person. He kept in touch with a lot of people who ran hotels, trains who were traveling through Chicago. Meet up with them, maybe walk into them by mistake. He makes up this story, having a brother-in-law who works for Western Union.
The inside source.
The inside source. So the brother-in-law says, listen, you know what I can do? You may not know this. I can hold off the information for a couple of minutes. You make a bet and you know who won, you can't lose.
Seems like an ideal situation.
An ideal situation. But you set up your own pool room. So the guy who's being scammed thinks he's in a real pool room, but he's not.
What Steve's talking about is a big store con, made popular in the movie The Sting. Here's a schematic. A con man will take a mark to a fake location, or a big store he set up, and that's where he runs his con. But it's not necessarily a store. It could be a bank, or an office, or a pool room. What matters is that the scammer controls the location, and every person in there is in on the con, except the mark. The mark will come into the big store, get a clear tip from our con man, and win. And then he'll be excited to come back for more.
So everything around him is an illusion at that point. Barkeeps,
Fake.
people at the bar,
Fake.
people behind the windows.
It's all phony. He may have 100 people working for him. So we're going to do a test. We'll put a small amount of money on in a race and see how it comes out.
So victim gets this information,
He runs to the pool room. And one is he may get there in time, make a bet, make a winning, and he's really excited.
and Yellow Kid's kind of pumping up their confidence at this point.
Exactly. So now he's got the guy on the hook. He may get information, and it says Lamplighter is going to win, and there's a number 3 written on it. Goes to the pool room, makes his bet on Lamplighter. He thinks the odds are 3-1 on Lamplighter, and he bets on Lamplighter to win. Lamplighter comes in 3rd. That was the information he got. He was supposed to come in 3rd, not win.
Did you catch that? Last time, the mark got a clear tip from our con man and won. Now, when he comes back with more money to bet, he gets a tip with vague information. Now the mark will lose, no matter how they bet at the fake pool room, and they'll think it's their fault.
But the whole time, it's as if he had interpreted the information correctly, he would have won these bets. So it's like, you idiot, you read
You
my
idiot.
message wrong.
You idiot. This guy loses $30,000. In fact, he couldn't go to the cops to complain because he was a participant in the con.
So essentially, it was just the cheats cheating the cheats.
Right, they're not following the Protestant work ethic of America.
So what was the haul? Over the course of 1924, from 20 different marks, Yellow Kid pulled in $500,000. That's $7.2 million in today's money, all with the same scam. You could even say he tracked down a fortune. Coming up, the Yellow Kid digs up a new kind of con.
He had a fascination with trying to sell bogus mines to gullible businessmen.
And he pulls it off by printing up some fake news.
The kind of money that Yellow Kid was probably throwing at them, yeah, there would have been plenty of printers that would have been able to do that.
Next on Hustle and Go.